Welcome to STEM and the Stacks and Beyond, your go-to podcast where two school librarians kick off our first mini-season with a countdown to the 2025 ISTE conference and dive into all things STEM and education. Each week leading up to the conference, we'll explore innovative tools, creative programs, and real-world strategies to bring science, technology, engineering, and math to life in your school community. So whether you're ISTE-bound or just STEM curious, join us as we gear up, geek out, and get inspired. So let's dive right in with your hosts, me, Jennifer Sancedio-Boatman with STEMfinity, and award-winning librarian and author and future-ready librarian spokesperson, Shannon Miller. Well, good morning, STEMfinity friends. I am your newest podcast host, Jennifer, and this is an idea that I had when I first came on board with STEMfinity. So I met STEMfinity back when I was in the library world in Dallas ISD, and when I first came on board, I was like, oh my gosh, I have so many ideas, and doing this podcast/blog has been a year in the making, and bringing my library friend on board, Shannon Miller, has been a dream of mine because I have followed her and so many of my ideas have come from her over the years. And I'm just so excited to officially launch our partnership with her and STEMfinity as we do a countdown to a conference called ISTE, where we will be there together.
Can't wait. I'm so excited. This is a big day. This is something that you've talked about with me for a long time. And so I am so excited that everybody else now gets to benefit from this idea of yours too.
You know, like the joke is, I followed you for so long. I honestly can't believe that this is my life right now, that I'm actually sitting here as a partner with you. It's just kind of surreal to me because, I've brought in STEM into libraries for quite some time, and I didn't have to come up with some ideas on my own because you already had so many. And I was like, oh, she's doing it and it works, so let's do this. And of course, we brought you in as a speaker several times, and your influence is just so far reaching. And so many people look to what you do because you are still in the library space using these tools every single day, sharing the good, the bad, the ugly, what's working, not working, just as a true collaborator in bringing STEM to life in schools. So I'm really excited to get this going.
One of my favorite things is, I think about that being home now for the summer and just constantly like looking and thinking of new ideas. And so I'm excited for us to bring ideas to people not only through the summer, but through the school year too, and how they're using STEM in the library and within their schools.
So my first question that I want to kind of us to answer together is, what do we love about STEM and what is the role of STEM in libraries? And, I come from a background of, I was a librarian, elementary librarian for the majority of my career. And we brought in a huge STEM cart, thanks to our generous PTA, because we didn't have room for a STEM lab, because I really saw the trend, a national trend of offering more resources. And I'm a huge advocate for the library being a space that makes opportunities equal for all kids. Not all kids have a 3D printer at home. Not all kids have gaming at home. Not all kids have drones at home. And so I totally believe that libraries are the great equalizer. And so the first myth I want to bust about bringing STEM into our libraries is that the books aren't going away. Like, we still do the books, we still do the research, we still do all of the things that we know to be true about libraries. We're just adding more resources. We're adding more things for kids to investigate and explore that go beyond the books. Hence why our title for this nifty little podcast is STEM and the Stacks and Beyond. So talk to me about what you think, what you love about STEM and the role that they play in our libraries.
Well, I think one of the biggest things I think about is I've been a librarian for almost 20 years. And even before we called it STEM, right? Those are the things that I love to do. Taking a book and creating this amazing activity, bringing like that book to life if it was through, even using like their minds and their hands and art supplies to do something really great. But now we have all these opportunities for robotics and 3D printing, and we have our new little chomp saw thing that I can't wait to use. Like, so I think in my head all the time, not only like how important it is for our kids when we think about giving them these skills, we think about even like career readiness, like making sure that they understand everything that is available. But then as a librarian, fostering some of that curiosity and creativity and collaboration and innovation and all those things that we have always wanted to do as librarians, but now we have these amazing tools and also a mindset, just to come together and really to bring our libraries and what we do within our classrooms, like that collaboration that we do with our teachers, but bringing all of that, to life in so many ways. I bet that hands down, that's probably if you were to ask kids, one of their favorite parts of their school day, favorite part of their year is just what we're doing within our spaces, our classrooms, our libraries, our communities when it focuses around STEM. Because, and the other thing too is that it doesn't matter what they're interested in. If it is space, if it's technology, if it's, a 3D printing, if it's something that they want to do with art or engineering, like all kids can find their space and their voice in STEM. And that is a great thing. And one thing that I just really love, like being a librarian and a teacher and making sure that our kids all feel that way. So that's one of my passions for STEM. And I know that it is for you too, and what you did in your library.
Both you and I are on the same one of these same Facebook groups for librarians, and a common problem that we see posted on that group and people coming fairly disheartened is our principal comes in, our district comes in, they think we're just playing. We're just in here playing with these toys. How do you combat that when people come in and say that?
Oh my gosh. Well, like I think that there's so many things that kids can learn also from play. Like, I think back to like when I was little or my mom was like a kindergarten teacher and a lot of her day like was focused around like thoughtful and intentional like play. And our kids don't get enough of that. They don't get enough of just being able to do something and fail, or do something and try to figure it out, or even just sit by a friend and maybe they're building, with, Legos, or they're building or making something out of paper, like whatever it might be. But there's always something that they're learning with that play too. And when, people say that, like a lot of times when I've had that, like, write a couple of your learning goals then where people can see it when they come in, or tell them the book that that maybe that activity has been kind of that jump board for whatever you're doing. But if they stayed with you for just even a few minutes, I'm pretty sure that they would see what that play and what kids are learning and how they're feeling and looking, and those smiles that we see when they have that chance, because they don't get that a lot, within their school day sometimes. And I think too, like, our kids now are they're on their screens often, and we do great things too when we're on our Chromebooks or our laptops, whatever it might be. But then, like, finding ways to have kids be able to be creative too with their hands and their minds and each other, I think is a really great thing to bring all of these tools that we use together.
I think there's a famous quote by Einstein, right, that says the greatest form of research is play.
Yep.
It's one of my favorites because I think that so many great conversations, though kids are really lacking that collaborative nature. They don't know how to play together. Because, like, for example, I'll have my kids over here with their friends, and they're all just sitting there on their phones. They don't really know how to communicate. And so I remember back when I very first started STEM centers in my library, I was recording just to kind of show the fun things that we were doing. And as I was watching back that video that I recorded to kind of edit it, put it together for a fun little promo, I was blown away by the conversations I heard the kids having. You think they're talking about like whatever's on TV or they're distracted by other things, but that's where the learning was. The learning was in the, oh no, try it this way, or oh no, oh my gosh, you see what it did, and how'd you do that? And they're teaching each other. And so just the rich conversations that were happening in that play, not only to teach those STEM skills, but those soft skills of collaboration and communication and doing all the things. And that's what I wish people would see when they come in and they see that they're playing. I wish they would dive deeper into what they're doing at those tables and talk to them and see what's going on and why that's important.
Well, and I always think about like when, like, I struggled with math, for example, and probably science too when I was younger. And a lot of it was probably because I wasn't excited or encouraged, or it didn't make sense to me the way that it was taught because I'm such a visual, like hands-on learner. And so I think about like when I watch, we have a STEM program in our elementary and our middle school. And it's actually in our library. We share a library and a STEM space together. And so watching our teacher Hillary and the things that she does with our kids, I always think in my head, like, if I learn that way, if I learn things the way that kids do now, when they get to use all of these great tools and manipulatives, and they get to sit with a teacher and talk about it out loud and problem solve. Like I would have loved that. Like I would have loved to be able to learn that way. And so I think like a really strong STEM program, and also one that trickles down, throughout your school, and you have those things that teachers can use, and they can bring in all learners no matter how they're learning or what their kind of passion is. Like it makes, the world a better place. It makes school to be something that is exciting for everybody and all those subjects coming together.
I remember when I was in training, we did something in Dallas called Project Read, where we infused more STEM and technology into our libraries. And I'll never forget it. It stuck with me and I use it over and over again. Something that our Apple Learning coach said to us was, we're preparing kids for jobs that we don't even know exist yet. Like, who would have thought that these kids would be making millions of dollars as an influencer?
Yep. I know, right?
And so you put them in front of a podcast or give them the tool to that in your library, and all of a sudden things click and they're able to talk about things that they're good at, that they're passionate about, and somehow that can turn into something later that they never thought was possible. These are kids who don't think that they have a true career path. And so when you give them a chance to tinker with robotics or tinker with things, all of a sudden these light bulbs go off, attendance goes up because, like you said, it gives them the motivation to want to come. A lot of times in my life, I don't know how it was for yours, but it kind of became a calm down place for kids who needed a distraction, right? It became something where kids needed somewhere to go just to kind of cool
Oh,
off or whatever they needed to do. So talk how you tie literacy and STEM together, because a lot of times I see librarians think, well, I have to have a book to go with that, or there needs to be, they're always, whenever you do STEM in the libraries or bring in some of these resources, that there always has to be a book to go with it. So talk to me about that balance, what that looks like for you.
oh yeah, that's a great question. Well, like I think too about one thing I always try to keep in my head when I'm thinking about like using like STEM or even like collaborating with my teachers is I know that a lot of people, they might think they have to have a book or like a topic or something, but sometimes for me, it starts too with the tool. It starts with something that maybe I have a kid in that class and they're like, Mrs. Miller, I'd really love to do 3D printing. And so I will talk with the teacher, we'll collaborate, we'll think about maybe something that they have going on even within their curriculum. And then tie it together, and then a book or maybe a research like in Pebble Go, or even something from their curriculum that we're trying to hit. Like, and so, oftentimes I try to bring those things all together. But again, it doesn't have to always come from, that idea that you have this great book and that you want to do this project. It can also come from just that little spark that maybe you have from a kid or a curriculum trying to meet that. One thing that we do too is a teacher also, they might have something that maybe they're trying to reteach or introduce, or maybe their kids are stuck on something and they're really trying to like make that. We use robots a lot for that, like reteaching. Or I remember first grade once we were trying to talk about like the beginning, middle, and end of a story. And so they might come to me and say, like, we need this great idea. Like, can you come help us? And then that's when I go back and I look around and I think, like, how can I make that happen with something like robotics or something that maybe we're building with Legos? And so I love like all those little sparks, and it might be a book, but it also might be just an idea or even just an idea from a kid too.
So backtrack a little bit and just kind of talk about how you and I got to where we are right now. I think that we both have similar origin stories. I am never, if you had told me 30 years ago, or back when I was in high school, elementary school, I was a theater kid, right? So I'm also Italian, so I'm very loud, and very, um, just big, on all the ways. And so I don't fit the stereotype of librarian. And so I never in a million years thought that this is what I would be. And so when I finished student teaching, back, oh gosh, 25 years ago, that's really hard to say out loud. 25 years ago.
Well,
The
we're
only
for
job,
That's
the
okay.
only job at the time was to because I graduated in the middle of the school year. At the school that I was teaching at, they only had a sub position in the library. And so that was kind of going to be my way in to like get a job in the fall, right? Just do this for now, and then we'll find a place for you, when hiring time comes around. Well, it was the best job in the whole school. I decided I'm going to go right away and get my master's in library science. And here I am living my best life. Not on Broadway, but this is kind of similar, similar, right? Um, how did you get into this? Because I never thought I was going to be here. So tell me how you got here.
I think it's cool too, just going like on your way. Like you have probably though used your background in theater and all the things that you love. I bet that you use that a lot in your library, like and getting kids, to be even like great presenters or being creative. And a lot of my story too is I graduated from college. I have an elementary degree and an art degree. And then I had a family right away. I stayed home. I actually didn't like go to work like in the real world until my oldest one was 13. And I applied for the art job at school, didn't get it. Applied for a fifth grade job, didn't get that. And they called me and they said, well, the library job is open. And I just remember thinking, like, I have no idea what I would do in the library. And they said, well, you volunteer and you come and read in your kids' classes and you're on the new, like, this was like 20 years ago, you're on the new tech committee. Like, that was before we were one to one. And so I gave it a whirl, loved it, went back, got my master's degree right away too. And it's the best job, like the best fit for me. Like I'm grateful I didn't get that art job now because I wouldn't have loved it like this. I love books. I love technology. I love learning. I love helping collaboration. Collaboration is one of my favorite things in co-teaching with our teachers. And just being in that space that's like the heart of the school and having our kids get to develop like what they're passionate about through all these things that we use, from all of the STEM tools to technology to reading, to experiences that we can give them. Like best job in the world, hands down. My own kids have went through my school, and even just talking to my daughter, she just turned 31, and just thinking about like those stories about her and my youngest one, Hagen, who's in college. Like the impact that we can make is huge and special. And really, to have a librarian is one of the most important roles that we can have within our school. And so I'm blessed, just like you feel. I feel like I won the jackpot on that one.
Yeah, it's funny when life came kind of full circle for me when I was in Dallas ISD at the end, and my first principal that hired me into this and, put me in this role was also ended up in the same building as me, in Dallas ISD. And I would go up to his office. I'm like, Oh, who'd have thought that this is what I was gonna be when you said, "Hey, can you be my sub in the library?" And it ended up just being the best. And I really become truly passionate and an advocate about, saving libraries. But some people always say libraries are dead, or they're not relevant anymore. And I think this ties directly into why STEM in libraries. And I truly believe, and I'm a huge advocate for, that this is what's going to keep us relevant, is that it is our job to provide resources. These tools, these learning tools, not toys, yes, or could they be toys? Of course. But these learning tools are just another form of resource. Like we said before, it's just another resource for kids to have access to. Talk to me about that.
I totally agree. Like, and when you said that, I thought in my head about one of the first things that we added. I mean, we've been using technology. We've been one-to-one, I think this is like our 16th year that we've been one-to-one at Van Meter with technology. But I think about like even when we added like Merge, for example, and how I soon realized that that could be used for a research tool with the tags that they have and all of like how kids can explore in it and they can go through the path of learning and listen and answer questions. And that has become something that, like, when I work with the teachers and I work within their curriculum, we're adding resources, like thoughtfully thinking about, like, okay, so when we do maps in kindergarten, we're using Ozobots, for example, or whatever it might be, like, and tying those things in to really thoughtfully think about how they can be used for research, they can be used for teaching, they can be used for, learning, assessment, like all kinds of different things. And that's why I think as librarians, we have such a strong role, of course, within our libraries and what we're doing within the skills that we want to teach kids, but then bridging that over to how we can really be a partner. And even if you have a STEM teacher like we do, like that's somebody that I talk to every single day. And I'm the one that's looking for things or looking for ideas or tying in books and helping her. Again, she's one of our teachers, making those like bridges with her on how that then ties into the curriculum and how it supports the teaching and learning that's happening within our classrooms. And so it's exciting for me. We've been using technology like across the country now for a long time and amazing digital tools. And even things like, when we might use Book Creator, we just had this project where because you can take a picture inside of it, they might make a book, but then they might take it and build something and tie in that stem to it to show like what they've done. And so all these things come together just to truly make a difference in how we're, teaching. Again, if I could have learned like that when I was little, like I probably would have done a lot better in math and science and all the things because it does make it really come to life.
Really, and speaking of merge, that was a resource that we rolled out in a big way in Dallas. And when I talk to people about it now, like when I'm sharing about it at different conferences or workshops that we do with Stemfinity, is I say that it is another online database is what it is. It's an interactive online database. It's a different way for kids to engage with science. And for us, it was a way to connect with science teachers because sometimes people, think, oh, librarians and reading teachers, and that's it. No, we're there to support all the teachers. And so all these different tools, whether it's Merge, 3D printing, or whatever it is, are all different ways to support. Like speaking back to Merge again, when we were doing a training for Merge, one of the people who was on the Project Read team at the time, he was a theater teacher at our arts magnet here. And he figured out a way to use the Merge Cube to make a visual for their set design and make it into real life and make it into a thing to where they could see it before they built it. Who'd have thought? So sometimes these teachers just take it and they run with it and they do things that were never even the intention or that you thought, which is exactly what the kids are going to do when you give them that opportunity, which I think is why this is so important that we're putting these things in kids' hands.
I think that's one of the best things about it because, you see these kids and you think about like a big part of what is going on in STEM too is just the way that our STEM teachers or even us as librarians are even talking again about careers and things like that they can do in the future, but also highlighting like things that have been done in the past. And I think about that, like theater design, for example. Like you have, this kid or you share a great story about something about theater or something, and then to see what they can do from that, no matter what the subject might be, but to show them like what people have done, what you can do now, and what is possible in the future is exactly what makes kids so interested in what they're learning and just to be able to explore new ideas. And even for me, like I come home sometimes and I think about that even in like we have our garden out right now and all the things that I see about, librarians and teachers and what they're doing within their libraries and their classrooms and schools. And it's so exciting because I think the world that we live in, because of the way that we see things, anything is possible now. And that's one of the coolest things.
One of the things that I've learned in this role is when we're talking about 3D printing, and when I've had different people come to me wanting 3D printers, and I've had a lot of people from special ed departments want 3D printers because these teachers and the students are printing their own accommodations, the little things that make keyboards accessible or make iPads accessible, or their fidget toys or their sensory toys, and all the different ways that these tools are just making school, making things more accessible and better for kids, I think is super, super powerful. Before we wrap up today, I want to talk about our whole mission of this podcast, which is we're counting down to ISTE. So before we leave people today, let's talk about one fun thing that you want to share that you are looking forward to happening at ISTE.
Gosh. Okay, so one thing I'm super excited about, I'll get them. I don't have the real ones, but I have the covers, is I have a series of books coming out with ISTE and with Capstone. And these are called the ISTE Digital Explorers. And they're really cool because each one of them is focused around an ISTE standard. But the other neat thing is that inside of them, are activities where the kids are creating, they're going to be creating, they're going to be researching, they're going to be in this one 3D printing and using a printer and a program like Tinkercad. And so I am so excited about that partnership, but just I can't wait to see like how people use them. And the really cool thing for everybody that's going to ISTE, there's a super fun scavenger hunt that we're planning with amazing prizes and something for that everybody would be interested in, but we'll start sharing about that soon too. So super excited about
Yeah, here we might be part of that scavenger hunt. We might be giving something away that might be pretty cool, right?
yeah, the last day. So there's all kinds of things through the week. There's Book Creator and there's Merge and Breakout EDU and Novel Effect and there's I'm forgetting one. There's Kai Education and then the last day, Stimfinity is giving away a bamboo 3D printer.
That's so awesome. I am actually really jealous of whoever's going to win that because the one that we're giving away, I don't even have as a demo. So I am super excited. And what an opportunity that someone's going to get to, because these are kind of expensive. And right now, with the crazy world of tariffs, we're going to give you one for free without even, worrying about what the current price of it is, which is another huge win because we always like to give people the latest and greatest to see how they're going to use it, and then we want to share about that. So obviously, our big announcement leading up to ISTE is that we are now partnering with you to share how STEM is coming to life in our schools. And we really hope that everyone will come back and join us and listen to all the other exciting things that we want to share with you. Shannon, is there anything else you want to add before we close
I'm
out
just
today?
so excited, Jennifer, and it's going to be fun. And what's one thing that you're excited about at ISTE?
I just said, like the fact that you're going to be at our booth, I think is super exciting for me because you were someone I used to wait in line for. you
Oh,
know, and now I'm going to be standing with you at a booth, sharing, collaborating. And so for me, that's a personal win for me. That's my personal plus. I've never been to ISTE before, so now it's here in the great state of Texas, right in my backyard. So I get to hang with my Symphony friends and you and all of our friends from all of our other partners and tools that we're going to be sharing along this journey. And I just can't wait to see what's in store.
it's gonna be awesome. So I'm happy that we talked, and I'm excited now just to think about all the things that we can share and talk about, and just new ideas. So it's gonna be so much fun.
Well, again, thank you. I am so excited, and we'll see you next time on STEM in the Stacks and beyond. Thank you for joining us for this episode of STEM in the Stacks and Beyond as we count down to ISTE and explore the power of STEM in education. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your fellow educators. Have questions or have ideas? We would love to hear a hoot from you. Until next time, keep innovating, keep inspiring, and keep stimulating your mind.